Hey everyone.
Hello.
Happy happy Tuesday. Today's
Happy
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Welcome everybody. As we give you all a couple of seconds to hop on, I am going to share, on Facebook and maybe TikTok, but definitely Facebook. If you guys are in our group, Healthy Living and Natural Medicine with Dr. Sarah, or something of that variation, um, we stream the podcast live every Tuesday in the group, and then a couple days later, we'll put it up on YouTube and where you all get your podcast. So if you want to be the first ones and want to be able to comment and interact with us live, definitely make sure you join the Facebook group. All right. So let's get started a little bit. Um, as per usual, this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. So make sure you consult with your doctor or healthcare provider before you make any of the changes that we talk about on the podcast. Let me make sure my phone is on silent. Perfect. So, Cece, it's been a couple of weeks. How have you been? What's going
I've been
on?
well. Everything has been going swimmingly. How about
Good.
yourself?
I've been good. Kind of busy. Last week, I traveled for most of the week for work. So I was literally only home for Friday. So with a lot of travel and travel drama, but that's why we missed you guys last week. But we're back, and I'm excited because February was a wonderful month. We did our podcast just about every week, all about heart health. And now this month, for Women's History Month and Women's Month, we're going to talk about women's health. And I thought the perfect topic to start off with is like, what's up with my period? So many women come to me for support with their periods, and there are a lot of commonalities between different things that can go wrong with your period. So I figured we could just kind of talk about what's up with it, what could go wrong, and then what are some things that we can do to support that.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So maybe we can start a little bit about talking about our own personal experiences with our menstrual cycle. Um, for me, my menstrual cycle started, I think I was 12. I was definitely in school. I was in middle school. I can remember that. Um, and of course, leading up to that, my mom had got me this little zipper pouch and it had like pads in there and extra panties and all kind of cool stuff. And then, of course, the day my cycle came, I didn't have that in my book bag because that would be too much like right. Uh, so, my mom had to come and, give me all the things. But I just distinctly remember my first few periods just being incredibly painful. I have this really distinct memory of like being curled up on my mom's couch in the living room and I'm like crying and she'll give me Midol and that really didn't do much of anything. But I didn't really get a lot of guidance on, this is what you do or this is why it's painful. It was like this, yes, women have been going through this for millennia. Take a Midol, take some Tylenol, you'll be fine. Um, so it wasn't until I started trying to get pregnant that I learned more about my cycle, more about hormones, all of those things. I think from the first time I got my cycle up until probably my mid 20s, I didn't really pay much attention to it. I was on birth control pills, it was just this monthly thing that happened and really didn't look into the details much. But can you share a little bit about yeah, your your journey with the menstrual cycle?
Yes. So I remember my neighbor was like a year younger than me and she got hers first and I was like, oh, that's weird, but whatever. And then I got mine sometime after that and I think I was outside playing or something and I came inside to go to the bathroom and I was like, oh, Ma, it happened. Because, they taught us in like fifth grade or something like that. They had like a
Yeah.
whole video and we watched all that. So I knew like it was a thing and that it comes and all. Um, and I remember my mom gave me one of like her pads, which I always call like mama pads because I felt like they're like bigger than the ones they make for kids. As like I got this
Probably.
boot that I put on. I was like, got my little boat. Now I'm good. And and I remember listening outside my parents' door to my parents talking, and my mom was like, "Oh, she got her period," and my dad's like, "Isn't it too early?" And she was like, "Ah, no, she's actually a little late."
I love how dads are always immediately like, "Not my baby. Too
Too
soon
soon.
for this,
She's only 5. No, she's 13.
sir." She's
This is what
13.
happened. And so I remember that. My periods were never, too bad when I was younger. I do remember that, like, having to figure out how to use like a tampon by like reading the instruction box because
Oh
I
god.
didn't have to wear tampons, but when you are in a school that requires you to take swim class and you take a
Yes.
week off, then all the boys know that you're on your period. And that was like devastating for me. I was like, nah, I don't need all these dudes to know I'm on my period.
All my business, okay? Yes.
I'm like, this is serious. So I had to teach myself how to use the tampons, which is when I discovered that there were 2 holes down there that I did not realize before then. I was like, oh, there's 2 holes. Okay, so I can still pee with this. Cool.
It
But
is
I mean,
amazing what they did not teach us, did not
yes,
talk was
the
about,
lack
yes.
of information is, but I also know like the generation of at least my mom, and I'm guessing kind of your mom is in a similar generation.
Yeah,
That's not something you talk to us about. Like your period is a very private, personal thing. Here's some pads. Live your best life. Don't ask no questions. If it's hurting, let me know. And I did get the
right,
Midol
yes.
when I was having cramps. Now I was playing sports and I ate a pretty healthy diet. So I was very, very, very healthy and active in high school and junior high. So I never really had much problems with my period as a young girl.
Yeah.
But then as a young woman, I did start to have like every quarter a really heavy one. Like it was always
Mm,
heavy, but, and I think I personally attribute that to the tampon usage because I found that it was, like, more with the tampons than when I didn't wear tampons, so I don't know what that was about, but,
yeah.
um, I did find that, as a young woman, when I was still active, I was working out, running, and doing all kinds of stuff, I was in college, but my diet was really different. It was much different than what
Mhm.
my mother used to feed me, and I would have these every quarter, there would be a cycle that was so bad that I would find myself laid out on the floor in the bathroom or laid out on the floor in one of the, like, quiet, like, study rooms on campus, like, on the floor, and I am a
Oh,
germaphobe, always
no.
have been. So
Yeah.
me lying on the floor, like, like trying to like pull my sweatshirt so that my face wasn't touching the floor where everybody's dirty feet were. I remember one time working at the hospital, they cleared a room for me. They were like, "Girl, what's wrong with you? You're turning green."
Oh,
And
no.
the nurses were checking my blood sugar, and I was like, "It's really just my period. I promise I'm fine. I just need like a little time to rally, and I'll be back at it." But yeah, so during my young womanhood, it was very bad. And then as a older young woman, I kind
I
of
always
figured
tell Chris
things out.
I may not be a spring chicken, I'm a early summer, late spring chicken, okay?
I still consider myself a young woman. So
Period, and
and
do.
now
Yeah.
when I was a young woman, I said, "Oh, that little girl."
Oh, yeah. She's so
But,
cute.
right? But, yeah, so I did over time figure out, strategies that worked for me and that worked better for my body, but it no one taught me. Everything that I
Yeah,
learned, I had to figure out on my own, and then I did share that knowledge with, like, other women in my life because
same.
I don't know if it's just because of being Southern or if it's being American or if it's being Black Southern American, Baptist, I don't
Yeah,
know, but we did not talk about periods. We talked about don't get pregnant, and that's
there
it.
you go. There you go. Yes, yes. The period was really just to tell you whether or not you were pregnant. No other
If you were
no other
pregnant,
purpose. Yes,
you're having
yes,
your period.
exactly. Yes. It's so interesting because I'm thinking about it and really, like I said, the first time I really started to pay attention to my cycle and track my cycle diligently was because I wanted to have a baby, right around 25, 26. And so
Mm,
shortly after Chris and I got married, I was diagnosed with PCOS. Now,
mm,
this is interesting, and I'll talk more about PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. But I had a different presentation because I had a regular cycle. I mean, I had been on birth control pills, so it was regular for a long time. And then I stopped them, and then my period was very short and very frequent. I think the shortest it was 21 days. I would have my cycle every 3 weeks. And that's when I was like, this is odd. This is weird. No one else has this frequently. I can't do this. So that's when
Yeah.
right around the time I got diagnosed with PCOS and had some of the classic symptoms that we'll talk about in a little while. Um, but that is really what kind of led me into understanding hormonal balances. And then I told my mom about the diagnosis, and she's like, "Oh, interesting. I had some of those same symptoms when I was young." And she also struggled with fertility. And so it was interesting to kind of put some pieces together for her because either PCOS wasn't a thing or, they just didn't diagnose her with it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of the entryway into me balancing my own hormones and getting to know my own period. And then that whole process, it has really shifted my perspective on the period. I think growing up, we hate it. It's the worst thing ever. Ah, my life sucks. And yes, it's not pleasant, especially if you are unfortunate to have a difficult period. But I see it as just another sign that my body is working. Okay. Thank you, body, for telling me, my hormones are good. And a lot of practitioners are starting to see it as like the fifth vital sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we grow up in an energy behind the thing of it being the curse and this thing that women
Hmm.
have to go through, and it's not fair because men don't have periods. And I find that my more enlightened approach to it, and what I try to share with young women and even young girls who are starting to have their periods, is that, wow, this is fantastic. Did you know that you're just
Yeah.
like the seasons, or you're like the phases of the moon, and you're like,
Yeah.
the ocean tides? Like, you have a cycle and a flow and a rhythm to how your body works, and it's something that you can kind of dig into and work with. It's this beautiful thing that only you can do, and you can make a baby, like, that's
Yes.
a really cool thing.
Creation.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so instead of it being this, like, horrible, dreaded thing, I think of it more as, like, very symbolic of
Yeah.
the way we should be living, this time where things are building up and these times where we're releasing.
Yes. And it's so interesting you said that because it wasn't until really the last year or so where I've been adjusting my life to fit my menstrual cycle. For
Mhm.
me, it was life has to go on, so it's business as usual. I just happen to be bleeding, okay? Things have to happen. But now with noticing, just like you said, this flow, this rhythmic flow and change, and how it impacts my mood, how it impacts how I show up at work and with my patients, I know that, okay, the last week or so of my cycle, I'm going to have very little energy. I'm going to want to lay down and relax and not do too much. So let's plan accordingly. So if we have a lot of events and we have to travel, if we can afford to, let's push it to the next week or just try to make things as smooth as possible. And then also knowing during ovulation, okay, my energy is up here for a lot of reasons, but this is a family show, so we'll just say it's up here.
Your body
And
is saying, "Hey, if you wanna make a baby, I'm gonna make your skin glow, and I'm gonna give you lots of energy, and we are ready."
listen, my husband sent me the most hilarious TikTok because I don't know what it is, but when you get into your 30s, I'm 34, I'll be 35 in a couple of months. Oh, actually 2 months to the day. Very cool. But when you enter your 30s, that ovulation week hits different. Okay, it is truly like your soul is like, girl, we need a baby. What are you doing? What are you doing? We need a baby right now. I know that you're busy, but you need to go find him right now and go and get us a baby. Okay. And I have to tell her, sis, we don't even have no fallopian tubes no more. Like, we need to chill. Okay. Simmer down. But in moments where I know like I'm gonna be high energy, that's when I plan my vigorous workouts the busy weeks where I know I can handle a lot of things back to back. So there's power in trying to tailor your life to your natural cycle.
Yeah, I think it's really it's nice to put yourself into a flow. I think a lot of times we are living this reactionary life, particularly if you live in the United States. We're very reactionary to everything that's going on around us,
True.
and then we overwhelm ourselves with too many tasks, and just allowing whether you cycle your scheduling with your menstrual cycle or however you do it, whether you cycle it with the seasons, and because we get lower energy
Hmm.
in the winter, it's very common. um,
Definitely.
but just allowing yourself to be in a rhythm, a cycle, and embracing that and loving it, because like if you think about like nature, nature goes through cycles, and when it comes back in the
Yes.
springtime, it is like vibrant and beautiful and all of that.
Yes.
And you can do the same thing. Like the springtime for us, you may have to correct me because I don't have a full like understanding of how that goes with the cycle, but my
Hmm.
understanding of it is it's more like that first week after. Like you
Yes.
have your menstrual cycle, and then
Yes.
the first week
Blooming,
after is like the shedding
blossoming.
part, like winter.
Yes. All
And
in
then
winter. Yep.
your
Exactly.
ovulation, yeah, and then your
Yes.
ovulation is like your springtime, and then the
Yes.
next week is like your summer, and then the fall you're starting to kind of wind down, and then the winter
That's
you're like,
right.
okay, now I'm having my cycle right now, or my period, should I say?
Absolutely.
So you can kind of cycle your, and I know sometimes at work you're like, no, I have to do it this way, but it might be that you adjust your personal life at home.
Yep.
Let's not do big projects right now. I'm going to be extra tired. Let's just watch movies and cuddle. Let's have this be our week of
Yeah.
cuddle. You know,
Yes.
and yeah, I think it's really nice. I mean, it just, I don't know, there's so many rhythmic things, music, your heartbeat, your
Hmm.
breathing, and
Your
to not
sleep,
follow rhythms. What were you saying?
circadian. I was like your sleep, your
Yeah,
circadian rhythm. All yes, exactly.
to
Yes.
not follow rhythms is actually like the weird thing.
Yes. Right. Yes. So let's talk about some of the four main types of menstrual cycles. This is just something I put together, not necessarily, a specific thing. But there are four main types of menstrual cycles. We have painful periods, heavy periods, erratic periods, meaning you might have it this month and then maybe another one in 2 weeks and then another one in 3 months. And then, it's unpredictable, very hard to tell when it's coming. And then missing, where you look and like, girl, where are you? Where have you been? Where have you gone? And so today we're going to go through each of these four types and then talk about kind of the root behind it, why we start to develop these types of periods. And then we'll focus on recommendations, things you can do, things you can try. And I have a new little treat for you guys that I'll talk about towards the end. And I'm sorry that all my text messages are coming through at the same time. Let me
Yeah,
put
it's
my
shutting off
do
alarm and
not
another
disturb.
thing.
Yes.
I was like, I wonder if they can hear that.
We couldn't, but yeah, I definitely get it. All right, painful periods. Have you ever had to deal with painful periods before?
Yes, so even though during my when I was a girl, I had them occasionally because I remember taking my doll, lying down and having a heating pad and having cramps. But for
Hmm.
me, it was usually right before my period started. And then once my period started, maybe that first day I'd have some cramps, but after that I was fine. But I remember
Yeah,
being uncomfortable like as it was leading up.
yeah. For me, I mean, I distinctly remember for the first like probably 6 months, maybe a year, I had really painful periods. Then it kind of tapered off. Then between probably 18 and 27, 28, my cycle, I didn't really have that many cramps, probably day one, day two. But they were pretty mild, no issues. And then I had my son, and then I had like no cramps at all. It was very, very heavy, but no twinges, no cramps, no anything. I thought it was amazing, minus the extra heaviness. And
You're like, I'm
then I had
lightheaded,
my
but I'm not having pain.
quite literally me. But then after my daughter, my period changed again and it was still heavy, probably a little heavier than it has ever been. But then I started getting cramps like leading up to it, the day of, and then it would taper off. But that's been something I've been kind of navigating since I started some supplements like DIM, diindole methane. I think that's the name of it. Um, it has eased up quite a bit, and the heaviness has eased up quite a bit. But I definitely have had painful periods before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know that. Oh, you can go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I did, during my college days, also deal that's when it got bad, but I was also
Mm,
under a lot of stress too. So I think there's a lot of things that affect, obviously the hormones, and so the stress of college and the changes in my diet, I gained
absolutely.
weight. It was healthy weight. I was really small anyway. I needed to gain weight, but, the changes in my weight, the changes in my diet, my physical activity probably went up because that's when I started really heavy weightlifting.
Yeah.
But I definitely had that's when I started having those every quarter where I would like turn green and be laying on the floor and thinking, "Can I just get through this little moment?" Because it wouldn't be all day. It would just be like it would hit me and it would be like maybe like an hour or two and then it would kind of go away. And I don't know what that was about.
Oh wow.
I do know sometimes if I had a bowel movement that would alleviate the discomfort too, but I don't,
Hmm,
when
hmm.
everything's in the same area.
I was gonna
Um,
say they're in close quarters down there. Yes.
yeah. But, but yeah, so I definitely had painful periods then, but then I know, once I started regulating my nutrition and changing my period products, I found that I was much like, to the point where I wouldn't even know it was coming.
Ooh,
I'd have to track it. I mean, I always tracked it, but I
yes.
had to really track it, like, "Okay, you don't wanna be walking around with blood on your pants as a grown woman at your job, so be aware that it's probably coming even though you don't have the warning cramps like you used to."
Yes, yes, yes. And I definitely want you to share what you did to help with that, because we are going to mention that. So, a lot of us in this age of medical technology, we have access to our chart notes, like My Chart or uh, Follow My Health, some of those. And so, you may see some words in the chart note that you may not know what it means. So, if you have gone to your OB for or obstetrician, gynecologist to discuss your painful periods, you may see a word like below that says dysmenorrhea. This means that you have painful, uncomfortable periods. Now, dysmenorrhea is interesting because it affects over 50% of cycling women. And yeah, I got my notes because I can't know. All of this is not staying up in here. It's interesting, but dysmenorrhea is very specific for pain that's only at menstruation. So only when you are having your period is when you have those cramps. If you have abdominal pain at any time outside of that, then it's not technically dysmenorrhea. Because some women have pain around ovulation or midway through the cycle. You can either have primary dysmenorrhea, which is specifically caused by the menstrual cycle, or you can have secondary dysmenorrhea. And that means that your painful period is a side effect or a coexisting condition along with another diagnosis. So, for example, dysmenorrhea would be secondary dysmenorrhea would be painful periods because of endometriosis or painful periods because of adenomyosis, fibroids, endometrial infection. So the pain isn't the only thing. There's something else that's causing that pain, if that makes sense. So now we're going to get into food because research has shown that foods that are high in a essential fatty acid called arachidonic acid, foods that are rich in that can contribute to painful periods. So, of course, the common question is, okay, well, what foods have arachidonic acid? Like, help me. So, the number one, the food that has, or type of food that has the most arachidonic acid is dairy. Yeah, cow's milk, cheese, all of the things that taste so great. are actually increasing your inflammation and making your menstrual cycles worse. So,
Yeah.
is that one of the things that you took out of your diet, Cece, that you thought was pretty helpful?
Um, Not at that time. I don't really do a lot of cow's milk and dairy now, but,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't either. Bleh. But yeah, I personally find that when I have a client that has painful periods, I will dairy and animal products are kind of the first to be reduced. I don't necessarily tell you to immediately go vegan or vegetarian, but if your diet is 30% plant based, we will have to increase that to 50, ideally 60. So just, baby steps, but definitely taking out the dairy, taking out the animal products, so beef, pork, chicken, and maybe, like I said, maybe not taking out, but if you eat it 5 days a week, can we do 3? Maybe even do 4 with a meatless Monday. Um, Now, foods to focus on if you do have painful periods: salmon, so good fish, healthy fish like salmon and halibut. They have really good essential fatty acids. I love them. I don't even know why it does this. If you
If you're listening, sometimes when she does a hand gesture with her thumb up, the computer will put a little thumbs up icon. It's just funny.
bubble,
It
yeah.
cracks us up.
Like, good job, Dr. Sarah. And then I did this and it still
The
didn't even
computer
do the
is
bubble.
feeling what you're serving.
Yes, yes. Okay, so salmon, halibut, sardines, flax seeds, pumpkin, sesame, and sunflower seeds. Now, this is really interesting, and you probably have picked up on this pattern. Some of the same seeds that they're mentioning that's good for painful periods is used for seed cycling.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you all are listening and if you've never heard of seed cycling is a really effective, natural, and holistic way to reset your cycle using different seeds. You eat 2 different seeds depending on what part of the cycle you're on. And I can give you guys some more information or breakdown in another video. But essentially, these seeds are full of essential fatty acids, really great for helping us support healthy hormones. And if you're a woman who does not have a period, you haven't had a period, it's kind of disappeared. It's a really great way if you follow the moon cycle to kind of get your body back into that rhythm. Yeah. So, what were some changes that you made that you saw such a big difference with your period?
Nutritionally, I would say drinking more water.
Hmm.
I went to a more vegetarian, pescatarian style diet. And so I definitely reduced my intake of animal products. And when I ate animal products, they were very healthy. Like
Yeah.
I went to pretty much, we're gonna say about 70 to 80% organic on my foods. And the animal products that I ate would be grass-fed, antibiotic-free, free
Hmm.
range. I tried very hard to get as close to the old-fashioned way of having animals
Yes.
as I could, at the
Yeah.
grocery store.
Yeah.
You can only do so much. But yeah, so
For sure.
I went back to a more traditional style of eating, um, and because, unless you were in certain populations, and I cannot say this from a factual standpoint, but my belief is that, um, most people were not able to access animal products at the level that we can access them today,
Oh, yeah, for
in
sure. No, it was
America.
definitely like a luxury, once, especially us,
Yeah.
okay, black and brown people.
Yeah,
No, we
'cause
were not eating filet mignon and steak and chicken all day, every day. No.
No, because I think, even, from slavery, we were maybe more likely to have a little bit of saltfish or,
Yeah.
the, you
Some
know,
scraps. Yeah.
chitlins and whatever things we could get our hands on, something we could hunt real quick without getting in trouble. And so,
Which did you
it
know?
was,
Sorry, side note. Did you
yeah,
know that they eat animal intestines? Like that's a common thing that they eat in various countries in Africa. Like that was one of the diasporatic, is that a word?
yeah,
The
no, yes,
cultures
diaspora. I'm going to assume you can make that a word.
along the African diaspora. That's one of the things that we kind of brought with us.
Nice. But no, I
Yeah.
did not know that.
I don't eat chitlins, but I thought that was cool.
I'm gonna be honest with you now. When I was eating animals like that, I could slam on some chitlins. My grandfather could make some chitlins, make you slap your mama with some corn. I mean, with some, well, he put potatoes, white potatoes and carrots in there. Them joints was fire. Okay.
Bussin', okay, was they bussin'?
Oh my
Listen,
God.
my parents did not cook chitlins. My grandmother, to my knowledge, did not cook chitlins. She never made it for me, and I
That was
doubt
my
that I would
request.
partake. That was your
Well,
request?
because my grandfather cooked them, you wouldn't know he was cooking them. And that's how I knew he was doing it right.
Okay, so
You
he was
walk
doing
in
it
the
right
house,
because if you get that faint whiff of funk, then yeah,
yep, you
no,
walk
you
in the
good.
house, you know he was cooking chitlins, and then you throw some hot sauce on there. I think he put onions, carrots, and potatoes, and he got them cooking real good.
Nice.
And I
That's how
that's
I feel
he.
about
I
my
don't eat
mama's
other
liver.
people's chitlins, and God rest his soul, because he's gone now. But well, he's not with us in the flesh. So
Yeah,
yeah, if he made chitlins, I was eating chitlins.
I
I was
heard
eating
that. I
several
heard
bowls
that.
of chitlins. Like I wasn't just eating anyway. But yes, so I don't believe we were eating tons and tons and copious amounts of meat like we do now. Although I do know that there are populations that do consume lots of meat because of the environment that they're in, and plants are
Yeah,
not readily accessible. And for those people, they have a genetic ability to digest and manage those types of products far superior to the average American, who probably grew up from a ancestral history of people who ate, and I mean not Alaska, because Alaska's different. They're one
yeah,
of those people that
yeah.
didn't have access to plants all the time. But
Native
Americans,
Alaskans,
we
the
were not
Inuit.
eating that
Yes.
ancestrally. Yeah, the Inuits were eating that kind of thing, and the Maasai warriors and the Maasai
Yeah.
tribes were eating that because of their land being more desert. But we were not growing up eating that, and I think that does
Mhm.
affect our hormones when we're taking on a diet that genetically, our bodies are not designed to digest and use the foods in that way. And then, in
Yeah,
addition to having a change in what we were eating, the quality of what we were eating due to industrialization.
talk
Well, look,
about it.
which was done with noble intentions at first. Even cereal was done with noble intentions at first.
Yeah,
It's what came with capitalism and what came with trying to get more money. So, all that being said, having a more organic, plant-based diet, having more water, and reducing my animal products, I found made a difference in my overall health.
yeah, yeah. I find that for me, when I did have the painful periods, my go-tos were during that week before my period. I noticed that my appetite actually kind of decreased and I only wanted like specific foods. So I tried to eat like a lot of nourishing foods, things that didn't take a lot of energy to make. Um, and then magnesium really was a big game changer for me. So magnesium is a natural muscle relaxant. It's
Yeah, that's why you
necessary
soak
for
your feet, right?
exactly Epsom salt bath. Yeah, that's why when you have cramps, muscle cramps, they tell you to take magnesium. I mean, I think a common thing was like potassium, but really it's
No,
magnesium.
no,
You should be
magnesium
taking.
was a thing too, but we did it more like through, like what you said, it was more like soak in it. And
Yeah.
now they've definitely got a billion different types of magnesium pills
Oh
that I don't even
gosh.
have the knowledge to
They have
understand.
magnesium
Uh,
roll-ons, which are really
Right.
amazing. I had a patient that was on dialysis, and dialysis can cause you to have some muscle cramps because of the
Hydrating.
imbalance in your electrolytes and the dehydration. And he would use the magnesium roll on his legs, and he had such a big difference. Saw such a big difference in that.
Mm.
So here's some general recommendations for painful periods. One of these I would love for you to touch on if you've had experience using it or can talk to why regular exercise is really great for painful periods or period health in general. Um, Good sleep, nutrients like B1, B6, or really a B complex, to be honest with you.
I think everybody
Mag-
needs to be complex at this day and age.
at this point, yes, for certain. Um, and the good thing about bees is that they're water soluble, so you're gonna pee out. You don't have to worry about taking too much. Your body is gonna flush out whatever extra is not able to be used. So that's one of the good benefits. Magnesium, I talked about this. Um, it relaxes the uterine muscles. There are a lot of different kinds of magnesium, so that might be a really good episode for us to do, to differentiate between the types of magnesium. And then
Mm-hmm.
really one of my primary and my favorite is fish oil, like a good quality fish oil, at least 2,000 milligrams, unless you're on a blood thinner. We'll talk about that. If you're on blood thinners, you should avoid too much fish oil. Um, but it really helps calm down that inflammation, which is really the source of your pain.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then also, I love my herbs. So I got to give y'all like my herbal recommendations. California poppy is probably my
You've
favorite
been
herb
talking
of
about
all time.
coffee, and I feel like now I need to get some.
It's my favorite of all time. There's not, according to me, okay, this is not my real belief. So don't hold me to this. But my ideal belief, California poppy can fix anything. Okay, you're stressed out, California
That's
poppy.
your Robitussin, huh?
Go to take some and go lay down. There you go. But it is a muscle relaxant. It is a what they call a hypnotic. So it kind of like brings all your stress down. It's very calming. So really great for like tense muscle spasms, particularly like menstrual cramps, because the uterus is a muscle. So, using muscle relaxers help calm down the muscle fibers of the uterus. Cramp bark, which got its name because it's good for cramps. Viburnum, really, really powerful stuff. Big fan of it. And then wild yam, going
Mm-hmm.
back to our ancestral roots in Africa. The yam is used for so many different things, but wild yam has a lot of hormone balancing properties, and is antispasmodic and can be a pain reliever too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, of course, homeopathy. I feel like homeopathy could take 1,000 hours for us to talk about. So there are a couple of homeopathic remedies that are good for painful periods, but those are our classic recommendations for a painful period. Anything
And
else you want to add?
as far as the exercise goes, two things that you spoke about that I feel really
Mhm.
did make a difference was, at the time I was pescatarian, so I was eating a decent amount of fish, at least fish twice a week. And I was eating, I was on a budget, so I was eating sardines, mackerel, little canned things I could get. And then,
Yeah.
when I was being bougie, I'd have some salmon. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I found that a diet that was more pescatarian as opposed to other kinds of meat was helpful. Although I am a believer, again, I don't like to eat meat just because I don't like the harming of the animals. But I do feel that the better quality meats that are raised in a healthy way and are antibiotic free and grass fed and range, they walk around and eat the grass, that
Mhm.
they tend to cause inflammation in me at the level that other. So I can't say like
Yeah.
I can't say that eating well-grown and raised meat bothered me at all as far as my body.
Right.
It may have bothered me, like, psychologically, but my body was happy to have that. So I definitely noticed a difference versus when I was buying what was on sale because that was on sale and that meat maybe wasn't high
Yes.
quality meat.
Yeah.
Then the exercise, when you exercise, you are doing several things. You are allowing your body to move. And I do believe that we get, stuck energy. And so that moving the body releases any, trapped energy. It can help you deal with trauma and stress. It also helps regulate hormones. So then you're again dealing with stress hormones and kind of helping flush them out of the body a bit. It also helps you to feel good and confident about yourself. You get a release of some happy hormones. So you start to
Mhm.
feel good and feel happy with what you've done. Your body feels good after having that workout. And you're sweating. And sweat is another way to release toxins. I find that
So
when
glad
you're
you said
sick,
that.
Yeah. So when you're less toxic, you have less inflammation. When you are doing things that help your hormones to be more balanced, because being sedentary actually is not good for you and does negative things for your hormones, then those things make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Um, I personally believe in adjusting my workouts to my cycle. So again, when I'm high energy, the estrogen is high, the progesterone is high, let me do some high intensity workouts. And then when my cycle is coming, the hormones have kind of crashed down, then it's more yoga, walking, gentle cycling, that sort of thing. Awesome.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people don't see the benefits of gentle exercise, but
Hmm.
it absolutely is good for your mental health. And some of those positions and stretches also help your body to release trapped energy because we do hold energy in different parts of the body. That's why chiropractic is effective, especially if you have a good
Yep.
qualified chiropractor. You do have to, like anything else, you have to find a good practitioner. Um,
100%.
but also,
Acupuncture.
yeah, acupuncture. There have been studies to show what it is doing with the waters inside of your body, and because a lot of people were like, "Oh, Americans,
Yeah.
acupuncture is fake. That stuff doesn't work." And then they did the science, and they're like, "Oh, we actually see what's happening around that needle. These people who are trained actually know where to
Yeah.
place it. You can't just place it anywhere. You have to actually
No,
know where
we
to put
definitely
that
can.
needle, and then you
Yeah.
get this swirling. It's fascinating if you ever research it." But yeah, so those different things do help release that energy. And also sometimes painful periods are linked to either psychological trauma around your lady parts and what those parts are
Hmm.
for, and whether you're good, clean, a proper person, or whether you're not. So that trauma could be coming from psychology, or it could come from if you've had a history of trauma to your
Yeah.
lady areas. So sometimes the period pain is linked to trauma as well. And so some of that yoga and
Hmm.
that other body work does release that tension and can help you to heal from that.
Yeah. All right. So we spent a lot of time on painful periods. I'm going to hop to heavy periods. So again, if you are in your My Chart, you're Follow My Health, you're looking at chart notes or lab work on your online health record or medical record, you may see a word that says menorrhagia. And menorrhagia is also known as heavy periods. Um, the same causes or same conditions that can cause painful periods also cause heavy periods. Who knew? Endometriosis, adenomyosis, which we can talk about a little bit, ovarian cysts, fibroids, IUD displacement, PID or pelvic inflammatory disease, often caused by untreated sexually transmitted diseases, and interstitial cystitis, which is a inflammation of your bladder where you either have very painful urination or you have to go all the time, and there's no like disease or something that doctors can point to as the cause of why you have those symptoms. So it's interesting that all of those conditions I mentioned can also cause heavy periods. And the root cause behind a lot of them, excluding the IUD and PID and interstitial cystitis, is excess estrogen. Endometriosis, adenomyosis, ovarian cysts, and fibroids, their root cause is excess unopposed estrogen, meaning that you either have a lot of estrogen and only a little bit of progesterone, or you have a normal amount of progesterone, but you also have a ton of estrogen. Now, one of the causes of excess estrogen, there's two common causes, more than this, but these are the two I tend to see often with clients. Number one, they've been exposed to something called xenoestrogens. These are, do as I say, not as I do, y'all. Okay, so these are xenoestrogens that are in our precious water bottle. Pretend that you didn't see me take multiple gulps of this during our time together tonight. But xenoestrogens are often found in plastics. Um, what else? Personal care products. So lotions, skincare, makeup, literally everywhere, sadly.
Paper
Um,
from the cash register, so if you're working at a store that you are
oh
constantly
yeah.
touching receipt paper, right? Isn't that one of
Especially
them
those
that you
long CVS ones.
I
Yeah, I
hate
forgot
touching them.
about
When I
that.
see people at the register wearing gloves, I feel so happy because, I
Yeah.
may touch it when they hand it to me and then I put it in my bag and I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah.
But they're touching it all day long, handing them to
All day
customers.
long.
And I just
Yes.
heard some woman, and I did not vet this, but she was saying that there's more BPA in that than in the plastic water bottle, and I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know if it's true or not either, but I pretty much believe that because the industry has been pretty good about removing BPA from major products like canned foods and
Yeah,
most plastic
yeah, it
bottles.
seems like they've been going away from it because they're like, "Oh,
Yes.
this is terrible."
Right. Oh, we can get sued by this. Let's cut this out. Let's
Yeah.
not do this. But who knows if they've gotten to printer paper yet with the receipts. But then the second cause that is surprising to some of excess estrogen is their gut. So there's a group of bacteria called the estrobolome, and they actually prevent estrogen from properly being removed from the body. So with a healthy woman, you have a bowel movement. Most of the estrogen that is processed through the liver is pooped out, and then a little bit goes back into the body to keep our levels nice and steady. But if you have a lot of bacteria that belong to this group called the estrobolome, then they are actually going to flip it, where a little bit of estrogen is going to be pooped out, and most of it is going to be recycled back into the body. That means we have more estrogen on top of the estrogen that we're normally making. And that can lead to conditions like endometriosis, adenomyosis, which honestly, adenomyosis, it can be caused by estrogen metabolism issues, but often is a side effect of like C-sections and abdominal scarring, uterine scarring, that sort of thing. But ovarian cysts and fibroids have also been shown to be caused by excess estrogen. And most of those also cause heavy periods. So the root of managing the heavy periods definitely lies in balancing those hormones, relying on some hormone balancing herbs like Vitex and peony and so many other herbs, but then also getting to that root, which is managing the excess estrogen.
I
Yeah.
will say that one of the other big changes that I made, was to stop using plastics, so it's very rare that I will, like, if you go out to, like, if you're out on a road trip, I usually
Yeah.
take copious amounts of water that I bottle at my house in a stainless steel or a glass container, but sometimes we run out of water, and so I'm like, "Whew, well, let me get this Fiji water because I feel like it's, like, better," and the bottle's supposed to be BPA free, but it's hard when you're at a gas station to try to find
Yeah.
something that is BPA free, and so they're trying and they're doing less and less, but it's still in there, so we're trying to get rid of it. I also
Yeah.
changed, like, the, pots and pans that I was using that I cooked with. I changed the storage containers that I was keeping my food in.
Same.
Of course, you buy frozen vegetables, they come in a plastic kind of bag. So there's like you can't completely eliminate these things from your life, but to try to cut down on it. And to be honest, I've only seen one
Yes.
store, an organic market that I like out here that has register paper that is BPA free too. They're very, very
Ooh.
good. Love the store. But yeah, so I've been doing those types of things, and I did also notice that that made my periods less heavy. I used to be like a
Mhm.
straight 5 heavy days with 2 light days kind of period girl.
Wow.
I mean, even sometimes go more than 7 days. And now it's so much better. I do think having a child made a difference too, but even before that, I was seeing the difference. And part of the reason why I made the change is because I was trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
But I'd
Yeah.
made the changes before, but I was like hardcore about it when I was like, okay, I don't want my baby to be toxic and start them
Something
off.
happens, yes, something happens when you're ready to have a baby where you're like, no, I'm cutting all this out." Yeah. It's interesting because when I started having the heavy periods after I had my children, um, after I had my son, it wasn't painful. It was just heavy and like heavy, heavy. If I use an overnight pad, I got to use multiple overnight pads throughout the day. And if I wear a tampon, I have to put a pad on top of that because who knows how long the tampon is going to last. And and that had never been my reality. So I was just like, what is happening? Now I did do some herbal recommendations that did work. There's a product called Slow Flow by Vitanica. There's a lot of different hemostatic herbs or herbs that are good for stopping bleeding. Um, so that helped for a little while, but I do think that what helped the most was my period care products. So I made the switch probably when I was trying to get pregnant. I started to use the cotton tampons. So like the all cotton, not bleach, no chlorine, no extra um, chemicals in there. And I saw a big difference. And I was able to maintain their use. But then when it became heavy, that all natural cotton is only going to soak up so much. And sis, I am really tired of cleaning all these pants. So I'm finna go back to Tampax. I'm sorry. But my water bill from washing all these clothes is really it's not working out. But then I switched to the Diva cup, which I like. Well, it's not a Diva cup, but it's a menstrual cup that I like. And then I switched to the period panties, which I love. And then I saw some studies about like the forever chemicals that are in the period panties. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know of any natural product that can absorb like 10 gallons of blood. Like that, yes, it's giving synthetic. I didn't think a natural plant fiber was soaking up all this liquid. I really didn't. So it wasn't super surprising to me, but it was definitely like, dang, okay, this really isn't the healthiest thing for me.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
definitely did the change over to more clean and healthy products. I started using Mama Cloth, which is basically a reusable pads, which you got to be committed to that life. But I was also using like the cloth diapers. So I was kind of like doing all the stuff anyway. I was like, I gotta wash poop out of this stuff. I mean, whatever. We're all gonna live. But yeah, so when I switched over products, I also noticed that, but my cycles got lighter with that. But I do firmly remember when my periods were really heavy, and I was a tampon and pad at the same time because I'm not trying to embarrass myself out here in these streets kind of girl.
listen,
And so, it's much better now. Um, and I don't know because it's not something that I've had to deal with since I've gone kind of clean and organic with a lot of my lifestyle. Because I think even switching my cleaning products, like I am very quick to just use some
yeah,
Casio soap with some essential oils in it. And then if it's a really heavy thing and I'm a little nervous, I get some peroxide. Because that's what we use in the hospital, just straight up
yep,
peroxide. So I'll peroxide you have to let sit because alcohol dries quickly, but peroxide you have to let it sit for
hmm
like 3 minutes. But when I went to using more clean stuff, I went away from using my good old Pine Sol and Comet, making my toxic slurry in the bathroom because that thing it was gonna shine in there. Okay, you can eat off of this tub. Don't even play with me, okay? Because I'm
okay, yes,
clean. My mother had to
got
tell
the,
me, "Girl,
you
open the
got the
door. You can't be
seasoning.
in there with that door shut like that." I was like, "I'm lightheaded. We partying. It's all good."
Yeah, I got to
I didn't
season the
know.
tub, mommy. I got to season it and let it sit.
Yeah,
Yes.
my mother really had to tell me, like, "You can't be cleaning with this stuff with the door shut." So if you are still using those products that are a little bit more toxic, but they're a little more dangerous, a little harder on the body.
Yes.
Definitely leave the door open, put the vent on, and do little bits that you can. Get an air purifier, let it pull that out the air for you. Because I know
Yes.
we all like I said, Dr. Sarah has her bottled water today. I've had my bottled water out on road trips. I like to have my incense, even if I only burn a little bit of the stick. I'm still putting that out there in my breathing air. We
Definitely.
all have
Okay.
our things that I'm not ready to give it up yet.
Yeah. I call
Um,
it managing your toxic load. Okay.
yes,
For
yeah, because
me,
our
I
bodies are
manage my
designed to handle
diet.
it.
Yes. So I manage
Just
my
not too
diet
much.
and stuff. You know why?
Mhm.
Because I like perfumes. I
Yeah,
like candles. And I try to get as clean as I can. But in the
right.
cases and situations that I want to smell like Rihanna, then I want to smell like Rihanna. And I will just drink extra water and
Yeah,
support my liver. Yes.
I mean, that's what it's about. You're never gonna be able to be perfect because you exist in this world, and whatever your neighbor is putting in their
There you
grass is
go.
bleeding over into your yard. So chill, but
Yes.
try
Yes.
to manage it. So if you're like, I can't give up my Comet and Pine Sol mixed together because do you know how clean everything gets? Fine. If you can't give up what that Dollar Fabulous, what was it? Fabulous, whatever that purple stuff
Oh,
is you
yes,
get from the dollar
fabulous,
store.
I
Because everybody swears by that. That joint is at the dollar store. Okay.
y'all,
So that's
please
what
don't
we do.
boil that. I don't know if y'all still boil fabulous, so
Yeah,
please stop
don't
doing
use it for an air freshener. Just
it.
do your
No.
cleaning, open up the windows, let it
Yeah.
air out. You know what I mean? Ideally we want you using like some lemon juice and baking soda, but we
Right,
know this
yes.
is real life and these are
Real
we know
life.
who we're talking to.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But I
Yes.
will say that making the swaps for clean products for my skin, clean products for my hair, clean products for cleaning my house, clean products for my kitchen, clean food going into my body. I even got to where I was trying to buy organic clothing, but girl, that's hard to find and it's rough. I said, I'll
Very.
just get the organic clothing that go on my hoo-ha because that's the
There
only
you
mucus membrane that's near the that's
there you
near the
go.
clothing. But
100%, yeah.
but yeah, so all of those changes I found made a tremendous difference. But there are still times, like I know Dr. Sarah, you do a lot of clean things and you made a lot of changes, but
Yeah.
you still have a heavy cycle. And ain't nobody trying to what look, we
Mhm.
not in this world where people are like, "Oh, look, she has a period stain. She's ovulating and having babies, and she's still in that phase of life. Beautiful." No, people are like,
Right.
"Oh, oh, sis, here, put this around your." What I mean? It's still considered like
Yes.
gross and stuff like that. And I don't think it's gross. When I was
Me
younger, I
neither.
did because I was taught to think it's gross. Personally, now I'm
Yes.
like, it's a
As we
period.
are.
It's
Yeah.
blood. If somebody was bleeding from their arm or leg, I would still not want to touch the blood, but I wouldn't be
Thank
grossed out unless the bone was hanging. You know what
No. Right,
I'm
right. And also, mind your business. She's doing her level best, okay?
Right.
Let her
Trust me,
live.
we have all seen somebody well, maybe not everybody, but we've seen people. I remember on the bus in college, I would see a girl and I'd be like, "Hey, sis, you got a little something here." "Oh, thank you."
Mhm.
And everybody's happy.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
I'm talking in my code, so I apologize that I'm not using full sentences, guys.
No, you're
Um,
good, you're good.
but my
We all
point
speak the same
is that
language around these parts.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. But we all need to do what actually works for us. So for me, the mama cloth
Yeah.
works. I will tell you, you can only use the mama cloth for so long. Eventually, you got to buy some new ones because they're going to start leaking. You're right. Plant-based fibers don't always absorb as well as these synthetic things because they are using the science and technology of chemistry to help you. But
Indeed,
I,
and
I
that's what
just
I have
think,
to have. I
yeah,
think it's because I have a chemistry background that I have to tell folks like, "Girl, I know you didn't think there was some tree fibers out there that was soaking up all this blood grit. No, no.
if that was the case, we
These
wouldn't
are
have had
raw
all this
synthetically,
progression for
okay?"
menstrual products throughout the years. They would have been like, "Oh, all you need to get the bark off of the slippery elm or whatever." I'm
Right,
just making stuff up. I don't even know if slippery elm is a tree. That's a plant. It's not a tree.
but it
But
is
you know
because
what
you
I'm saying? But you know what I'm
already know
saying?
what you was
If
talking
it's
about,
that
girl.
simple, we would have known this years ago, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Um, for the sake of time, because my kids, if y'all see me peeping out the window, making sure my kids aren't back yet. The last two tend to go hand in hand: oligomenorrhea and amenorrhea. So
I'm gonna be honest with you, I've
oligomenorrhea,
never heard of oligomenorrhea, so I'm
okay. Oligomenorrhea is that erratic period. She show up when she feel like it. Okay. The normal periods are like 28 to 32, 30-ish days. I got you, girl. Your period be like, hey, boo, I'm here. I know I would say last week, but I decided to, spin the block again. Come on, stop by and see how you was doing. Or, hey, girl, I know I came last week and then it was 3 months before then, but I'm back. So like the erratic period that just pops up whenever she feels like it. She don't care. She don't have a schedule. And that's because hormones, usually. Specifically PCOS, which we talked about earlier, polycystic ovarian syndrome, is one of the most common causes of oligomenorrhea and amenorrhea. So
yeah,
amenorrhea is the lack of a cycle.
meaning it's
You
just
just out
gone.
there
Is there a
like,
time
girl,
period
where
that qualifies it as amenorrhea as opposed to oligomenorrhea?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So glad you asked that question. Yes. So Primary amenorrhea is if you have never ever in your life ever had a period.
Hmm.
Even after the age of 16, you still haven't had a period. You have primary amenorrhea, meaning that you either have a genetic condition that's causing you to not have a period, maybe the master hormone gland, your pituitary gland, there's an issue because the pituitary manages all of our hormones and it communicates with our ovaries to help start the period. Now, a secondary amenorrhea, you can be diagnosed with secondary amenorrhea if you have had a regular cycle and now your period has just poof disappeared for 3 months. Then
Okay.
you have secondary amenorrhea. If you already have irregular periods, which means you already have oligomenorrhea, okay, she come whenever she want, you have no idea when she's gonna come. Then if you haven't had a period within 6 months,
Okay.
then you're considered amenorrhea. So oligomenorrhea is just having one that's erratic, kind of pops up whenever. And if you go more than 6 months without a period and you've had an erratic cycle, then you would be considered having amenorrhea. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, because my experience with amenorrhea from my background is overexercisers and folks who have eating
Mhm.
disorders. And that's primarily when I see it. So people who are so
100%.
fit that their body fat isn't even at a, like they just can't, their body can't
Yes.
support what they're doing physically and give them a
Yes.
period. And then the other folks, they
Absolutely.
just are too, they have anorexia, bulimia, and they just, their cycle, everything's all messed up.
Yeah. When you have low cholesterol, you're going to have low hormones because the steroid hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, are all built from cholesterol. And so
Mhm.
if you're a extreme exerciser, you likely will have low cholesterol and your body is like, look, friend, either we going to run these 20 miles or we going to have a cycle. You cannot have both.
Right.
You
Because you
can't
need
have both.
energy. You need a source to pull that from, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%. Um, let's see. Causes of amenorrhea. We talked about the causes of primary amenorrhea, which is a genetic condition that usually has something to do with the X and Y chromosomes or
Right.
issues with your pituitary gland, that sort of thing. But then secondary amenorrhea can be caused by PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, which affects 10 to 15% of women and is actually the main cause of infertility among young women. And then also other causes of amenorrhea include, like you said, overexercising, anorexia nervosa, and malnutrition.
Mhm.
Common recommendations if you have PCOS, if you have a missing period or erratic period, definitely want to focus on balancing your hormones. And you can't balance your hormones if you don't know what your hormones look like. So, a specialty hormone test, much like the Dutch test, or
Mhm.
there are a couple of specialty labs that look at our hormones. Um, and please, I hate to say this. I'm not going to say don't believe your doctor. Many conventional doctors feel as though your hormones, they're not going to tell us anything. You can't really measure them. Please disregard that. Our
But and
hormones,
also
when taken, mhm,
the levels that they consider normal are different than the levels that, they're going with the average population, but you have to remember that in America, I hate to say this because we're not in a country that doesn't have access to resources, but we are in a country where we have changed what we do and how we eat.
yeah,
So the average level of these hormones that they're telling you you're hitting, remember how many you said 50% of women are dealing with issues like painful periods stuff, right? And then you said
mhm,
15 to 20% have PCOS. So if
yep,
they're taking a sample from the average population, our average population is not coming up at norms.
it's
Our
imbalance.
norms are off.
Exactly, exactly. I'm so glad you said that. Exactly. And it depends on what time in your cycle you measure it. I would never tell somebody to measure their progesterone on like early in the cycle, like because everything is still low, so it depends on what part of the menstrual cycle do you take those measurements? And whether it's a saliva test, a urine test, a blood test, all of that makes a difference. All right, so we made it. We had such a good discussion today. Is there anything you want to wrap up with when it comes to, having better periods? Anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Um, One would just be that do as best you can to have a clean and healthy lifestyle when it comes to like toxins, because I think that makes a big
Mhm.
difference. And be open to working with a holistic practitioner when it comes to balancing your hormones. Most conventional doctors do not know how to balance hormones. They just can interpret the tests that say, well, you seem normal based on a population of your peers. But most of your peers are dealing with the same issues.
Yes,
Infertility is a major
unwell.
issue in this
Yes,
country. So you don't want to be normal compared to your peers when we're not normal.
yes,
So work
yeah,
with a practitioner who can help you figure out what's really normal for you and what your levels really need to be.
absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, such good points. Um, as always, I always tell women, look at the root cause. Don't you? We're so used to docs being like, "Oh, just take some birth control pills. You'll be fine." Band-aid treatments, band-aid recommendations just don't work for most people. They don't work for everyone.
Yeah.
So focus on root cause. And the best way to identify that root cause is yes, working with a healthcare practitioner, a holistic healthcare practitioner, ideally a naturopathic doctor, but you choose who you want to choose. Um, but also have a mindset that reminds you that this will take time. You are undoing years and years of inflammatory processes, of habits that have built up your toxic load and impaired your body's ability to maintain a certain level of homeostasis. So try to be patient. It's going to take some time, but making small steps and small adjustments can make a big, big difference when it comes to our menstrual cycle.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. This month, again, is going to be Women's Health Month. So it's going to be all about women's health. This week, we talked about painful periods. Unfortunately, I cannot remember what we're going to talk about next week. Do you remember?
Oh, I know we've got
Vaginal
some.
microbiome.
Yes, I was
Yes.
gonna say we
In
got
case we
some.
just
We getting all up in your girly business this month.
all up in your business, girl. We're gonna make sure you have a better period. Okay, that vagina is gonna be healthy and happy. Yes. So we're going to talk about the vaginal microbiome, what can happen when you have a dysregulated microbiome, how that can affect your overall health, fertility, and also, yeah, I mean, most older women, they know this, but don't feel some type of way about that bleach spot in your undies. Okay, that means that vaginal pH is on point. Yes. So we're going to talk all about a healthy vaginal microbiome. And please make sure that you share and like and rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you want to join us live and chat with us, like with Vicky and Ashley, make sure you join us in the Facebook group. Um, I think it's natural medicine and healthy living with Dr. Sarah, something like that.
Maybe
Make sure you join us on
in
Facebook.
the link under the YouTube video if we can, so that you can. Then you don't have
Yes.
to remember it. And
Actually
then find
glad that you
it.
said that because I almost forgot to share something that I've been working on. If you have and struggle with painful periods, I have a bonus for you.
Mhm.
So I created a painful period support plan through my online dispensary called Full Script. And so I put the link in the chat. I'm also going to put it up on all of our social media platforms. But you can visit this plan. It has fish oil, magnesium, one of my favorite supplements for painful periods. You are welcome to place that order. And if you have any questions, you can always book a free discovery call with either of us at ellisfamilywellness.com. So enjoy the support plan. My babies just got here, so I'm gonna dip on out. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I'll see you guys next week on the
Bye.
Black Girl's Guide to Natural Medicine. Bye, everybody.